Hello, my friend. So I was going to watch the Amazing Spider-Man 2, but I forgot I had to watch this video. So we'll be watching this video. Very powerful. Yamamoto versus the Royal Guard. By this man Bleach Hub. So let's see.
Oh, Hub, it's his
Did
Hub.
Bleach Hub
Okay.
get it right?
I
Let's
am
see.
So this
so
is a
happy with
question I
this.
recently received, and it was basically asking if Yamamoto could defeat the Royal Guard from the Thousand Year Blood War. So basically,
did
Thousand
Ooh.
Year
get a
Blood
better
War,
mic
Yamamoto
file?
versus Gerard, Askin, Lille Barrow, and Pernida, right? And maybe Hashfold
Yeah.
if you want to include him, but I think Hashfold kind of makes the discussion a little bit different. So we're just gonna stick to like the normal like shoot Stoffel members. We're also just not including Uryu because it seemed like the question
Yeah.
was like, could he beat up the four main guys, right? If you want to follow up
Yeah.
video where we maybe talk about Yamamoto versus Uryu with the antithesis or Jugram with like the almighty power
You
up
guys,
and
I'm
everything,
gonna
I
go
can
now.
also do that for you guys
Alright,
as well.
Talk to you guys
But yeah,
tomorrow.
this is actually a pretty interesting topic because it comes down to a few different statements, right? The main one that's really coming down to is Yuha saying that he is the only one that can contain Yamamoto's Bankai, and whether or not that applies to the current shoot Stoffel who get a power-up, quote-unquote, from the Ash Wallen. Or in Lille Barrow's own words, it's not a power-up, he's merely receiving the power he previously had, and so it's kind of like freeze.
No, that's not what he said. What he said is he's now using the power he didn't before. Because he got one shot, basically. So no.
Right? Where like Frieza's different forms kind of restrict his power, and going through his forms doesn't necessarily power him up, quote unquote, but more or less giving him access to his true power, right? Same thing for the Shoot Stoffel members.
No, not the same. Their abilities are getting amped. They're not regaining abilities. Their abilities are being redistributed. So now they're getting amped by other people that didn't have that power. All of them individually have different powers. Yuha, in part of him, he awakens their ability, and then gives them a script uh based off of it. Like he's able to see a letter, and he just searches for that person. Boom, awakens power. Boom, yada yada yada. The Schutzstaffel don't have that power. That power are the other Sternritter's power individually. Like Askin doesn't have access to um Basby's, for instance, right? And when it gets redistributed, it's not like, oh, Askin had it all along and then just like he had given it to Basby. No, that's not how it works.
With that being said, it does seem like it's more likely that Yuha making that statement, if it is just unlocking their true abilities, making that statement would have the knowledge of what they are truly capable of, and is still saying that they cannot contain Yamamoto's Bankai, which all that means is this is not the end of the discussion. It just means that Yamamoto's Bankai, at best for, Yamamoto himself, would be stronger than all of the members of the Shoot Stoffel. But as you guys know, the Shoot Stoffel are not so easily defeated. You can't just power up and beat them up, because in particular, you have like 3 different members that get stronger as the fight goes on. I'm talking about Pernida, Gerard, and Askin the D-Man, you know what I'm saying? Lille Barrow kind of also gets stronger, but in a different way as the fight goes on. But yeah, they're not as easy to defeat as like, well, I just beat them up in base form, as most of them are going to get back up and be more of a hassle to deal with. So then the real question is, can the Shoot Stoffel take down someone that is some amount stronger than them? We have some examples of like people trying to steal another person's Bankai and still being able to somewhat contend with them. If you guys remember at the very beginning of the Thousand Year Blood War, that one like Quincy Arankar hybrid tried to take Ichigo's Fullbring Bankai and could like still somewhat, and I'm using the word somewhat very, very loosely here, but still somewhat exist around Ichigo, right? It wasn't like Ichigo was soul crushing him or anything, but I think it was pretty evident that Bankai Ichigo is way stronger than him. It kind of gives us a little bit of like maybe a maximum gauge we could have between the Shoot Stoffel and Yamamoto. So basically what I'm saying is that like even if they can't steal his Bankai, that doesn't mean that they're like infinitely weaker than he is. I mean, truth be told, even from like a feats perspective and not even using like the inverse power scaling, Yamamoto is like pretty comfortably in that like multi-solar to like low multi-galaxy range if we're just kind of using his just generic feats where like he's able to shake the entire Soul Society and threatens to destroy it by merely existing in his Bankai state. The Shoot Staff would be in a similar level of power because they're able to contest people like Kenpachi. Kenpachi being the same guy that was able to beat Gremmy and even had Gremmy admit that he couldn't imagine anything stronger than him. Gremmy being the same guy that created like a low multi-galaxy pocket dimension on the fly. And so it like gives them some similar relative scaling to someone like Yamamoto. Even if we're just like kind of looking.
No, Soul Society is bigger than the universe actually. Um, and he's gonna destroy that. Has Muken contained within it. Literally infinite, has the beast realm within it. The Soul Society, just in its totality, is a lot bigger than that. And just even just using generic terms, universe, and not just just this galaxy. And you just said low galaxy, so I'm like, bruh, millions of galaxies in a universe, like infinite universe. So, like, come on, bro, no. As well, like, it's pretty odd just like how he's trying to articulate this right here. Like, okay, they're not infinitely weaker. All right, but I'm like, I don't know why he's using the medallion when you can steal somebody's Bankai with the medallion. But that's not what matters. What matters is actually if you can control it. You can steal it, that's perfectly fine. But that doesn't mean you can control it properly. And that's what Yuha says. It's not like we can't steal it, but bruh, who can control it? And that's Yuha. So they could just steal his Bankai. Like, that's fine. Like, I don't know why he's trying to articulate it like this. I don't think it particularly matters. Like, regardless though.
Admit that multi-similar relative scaling to someone like Yamamoto, even if we're just like kind of looking at their general feats. Obviously, you can argue that maybe Yamamoto could be higher. You could go into some universal arguments for him. You could do the same thing for the Shoot Stoffel. But at least at like a baseline, I want to set a precedent that like inverse scaling wise, Yamamoto should be like some amount stronger. But if we're looking at their feats as well, it should put them in a similar power range, which then is going to loop us back to the question I proposed a bit earlier. Can Yamamoto actually deal with their odd abilities, right? In Bleach, being stronger than somebody gives you somewhat of a resistance to your opponent's abilities, but also there are some abilities that allow you to just traverse large gaps in like a power difference. For instance, Gin thinks that, third fusion Aizen is way above him, yet his Bankai is still.
That is not a valid example, dude. Aizen lowered his spiritual pressure. No, sir. Like I think we should, when we reference these feats, also always make it abundantly obvious that these characters don't actually scale to them, or at least to these forms of them. Like, let me just first go over this one real quick, right? Like, let me give an example for Aizen. Aizen can just pull up, boom, not get damaged at all right here, just kick it away. And then the only time he's actually getting damaged or anything is when he literally looks up, reacts, and then takes damage. That entire fight, that's what he does. Do note this as well, like one of the most common feats, like trying to use the skill, him gets to get Tensho. Like, let's go a little further. Let's go a little further to when Aizen dies. Let's do that real quick. So, as we all know, Ishin, Kisuke, and Yoruichi, they cannot sense Aizen. All right? They are not strong enough to sense Aizen. However, these guys are. They're able to sense Aizen. This would mean Aizen is not going all out unless we are to believe these guys are stronger then Ishin and Kisuke and Yoruichi.
I don't know, man. Sounds fine to me.
But yeah, boom, does this and blows up pretty easy right here. Boom, kapow.
Also, before you say anything, I I find it weird that he's using crossverse scaling for inverse scaling, but I know it's
That as well.
analogous to make it easier to explain, but I find it odd, you know.
Yeah, I don't think crossverse scaling is any way good when you're talking about inverse.
Yeah, I agree. But
Like,
when I
I don't
watch this,
think
I
you
just let
should
that
use it.
slide. I think the
But
videos look
okay,
good for the most part.
right here, it literally references it. It can't be.
Yeah.
So this right here, showing our boy Aizen pulling up, showing them right here. The Getsuga Tensho, that's referencing the fight. And then he says, having evolved to a plane beyond the Soul Reapers, just as a two-dimensional being can't interfere with a three-dimensional being unless I purposely lower my level to allow myself to be interfered with, unless I purposely lowered my level. Okay, here, again. Here, the Kisuke Yorishi and Ishin fight. My spiritual pressure could not be sensed by Soul Reapers or humans. Like, yeah, unless I lowered myself to be allowed myself to be interfered with. Like, in sense, right here in the images.
Still able to blow a massive hole in his chest, telling us that even though there is this kind of power gap between Gin and current third fusion Aizen, Gin's Bankai is just sick nasty with the sauce. Or even take for instance someone like Ishin, who said that like he can't even sense second fusion Aizen, yet his Getsuga Tensho is so powerful that it's able to still crack second fusion Aizen's like chrysalis form, meaning that Ishin's Getsuga Tensho is literally just sick nasty with the sauce. Meaning we have some examples of like there being abilities in Bleach that can kind of cover that gap in power between two opponents. And so let's just kind of go over some of the different Sternritter and kind of how I think some of these fights would go.
There are examples. These aren't the examples. Nor do I think saying that like big tiers above like is really like represents it properly, but you need to be a lot stronger than somebody to just neg it just entirely. Just be like, hey, yeah, you can't do shit to me. But yeah.
Go. Gidard, I really don't think it's really that hard to say, but I'm pretty sure Gidard would literally just start regenerating and getting stronger and stronger to the point where Yamamoto would not be able to deal with him anymore. I think it's very telling by the fact that the only person that actually killed Gidard was literally Yuha just returning his powers back to him, meaning he just like yeeted his soul out of his body, returned the script back to him, and that was the only way they were able to actually permanently put Gidard down. I mean, they literally obliterated him numerous times, tried to power null him, tried to fight him with brute strength with like Bankai Kenpachi, and nothing really seemed to work. But you know, that's because Gidard is like the body of the Soul King, right? He's supposed to be really OP, that's fine. Well, what about someone like Pernida? Pernida is kind of the same thing. There's maybe a chance that if Yamamoto just utterly vaporizes Pernida with his Bankai right from the start, you know, doesn't leave like any bits remaining from Pernida, that he would just actually win the fight then and there, because Pernida kind of regenerates when their like limbs and things start falling apart and they regenerate into different arms of the Soul King and everything. And then the longer the fight goes on, the more adaptive Pernida becomes to their opponent, right? You know, Pernida fought Kenpachi for like a brief instance, yet adapted to their level of power. And so it could be a very dicey thing if Yamamoto doesn't take it seriously. It doesn't just obliterate Pernida right from the start, but based on how we see Bankai Yamamoto fight, it seems that he's, well, for lack of a better term, pretty aggressive and willing to go for the kill, bloodlusted, if you will, pretty much at all times, because Bankai Yamamoto means that, like, he has to put everything on the line, right? It's not something that he can just pull out casually because of how much it affects the actual cosmology of Bleach, right? It actually will threaten to destroy one of the realms. It's so powerful.
All right. So as for Gerard, he can literally just hit Gerard and kill him just by being so much stronger than that he can't regenerate. He can literally just do that. Like, We see you being able to neg regen just by being stronger, a significant degree stronger. We see that with Orihime. She can't reject Ichigo's wound when he's gone and got himself killed. Like, can't do it. However, we have him just regenerating right after with white. Then we have like
Hmm?
all right. And then we have I just said Ichigo, then he regens. Then we have somebody like Shaz Domino. He literally just got hit by Ichigo so hard he could nearly not regenerate. Just like Ichigo just whacked him and he almost wasn't able to regenerate. Like his regeneration was really, really slow. And his literal ability was immortality. And everybody thought that, bro, he literally just can't die. He's just a universal constant, bro. Then the nigga just is there. He just can't die. So no. Yamamoto can just literally hit him fuck off enough. Like with East, like Zanken Otachi East. Send that nigga to Oblivion. No, it wasn't East. He can just just do a fuck off blade like attack with a North, so he just dies. Pernida just gets killed by like. This is even saying he goes into Bankai. By the way, he can literally just use his slash just kill Pernida.
It's try to kind of adaptive prince yet seriously to fight. It's lusted, if you will, pretty much right. It's not something that he could just pull out casually because of how much it affects the actual cosmology of Bleach, right? It actually will threaten to destroy one of the realms. It's so powerful. So that being said, if you plop down Pernida next to Yamamoto, I don't think Pernida has enough time to actually adapt and overcome Yamamoto, and he just pretty much obliterates it right from the start. Lele Barrow is another interesting one.
There's also the fact that Pernida doesn't have enough time to adapt that high to Yamamoto because he does an entire fight and that until he dies, he's literally getting killed by somebody that's beyond eye patch and Pachi. So I'm like, I don't think he's even gonna have enough time. Even if we presume that Yama's fucking off and shit and dicking around, he's not gonna have enough time to get to his tier.
This one could just be more of a stalemate because Lele Barrow doesn't necessarily get stronger, quote unquote. He just gets more and more powerful abilities as the fight goes on, right? Like he has this insane perception ability, then he kind of turns into a nugget angel and becomes immune to Kido and conventional attacks. Then he gets his owl form where he gets even better precognition, better eyesight, some more mass AoE techniques. He can fly a bit easier, stuff like that. But he's not a
I don't know when it's established that Lily gets precog. Am I I don't remember that being stated. Am I misremembering? I don't remember him ever being stated to have precog. Anybody aware of that?
I don't know. I don't even think Clyde mentioned precog in his Lily Barrow video. So
Yeah, but it's
Clyde
never
was
been
blanking
stated.
Lily.
Yeah, very odd then.
Exactly getting stronger, quote unquote, you know what I'm saying? Ironically enough, being the leader or the first Quincy that Yu-Ha gave power to, he's probably one of the most tame in comparison to all the members of the Shoot Staffel, but he's still quite unfair by the fact that he becomes intangible when he starts getting to his higher forms. And the only way that Lily was able to be damaged in series was either with the God Paddle, which is something that's literally designed to kill divine characters in the series of Bleach, or Shunsui's Bankai, right? Shunsui's Bankai threw a thread around Lily's head and blew his head up. But what that tells me is that if Yamamoto can somehow actually just literally eviscerate Lily in that form, or in his first form, he actually does have a W. But if he can't stop Lily from getting to his owl form, it literally just might be something where Lily will just outlast Yamamoto, right? Because we know that Yamamoto can't use his Bankai forever. It does exhaust and put a toll on him. As Yu-Ha says when he's arrived to the battlefield, he says, hey, Yamamoto, are you that tired already fighting one of my copies, right? But it just shows that his Bankai puts a huge toll on his body. and is very, very stamina intensive to use. And so if Lille gets to a form where he's intangible, then he might just literally be able to outlast Yamamoto's Bankai and then kill him from there. But if
No, like it's not really stated that Yamamoto's Bankai puts like this really big strain on him. Like he just goes right back into Bankai when Yuha says that. Like Yuha doesn't even say that like, oh, have like you've used up your power or anything. He questions it because he's just in base. And then he's not doing anything. But that's literally part of his character. He's not as wild as he was before. He would have just raged out, gone into Bankai. Like, if that just happened to him in the past. So
if Yamamoto again is able to just completely eviscerate Lille so he cannot go into his higher forms, then he should have the W there. But when I say he has to eviscerate him, I mean he literally has to obliterate Lille Baro. Since we just kind of like stabbed him when he was in his base form, and that's why he was able to easily go to one of his higher forms, we don't really know if you just like decapitate base form Lille, if that actually just gets you the W, or say if you just toast him completely.
I remember hearing somewhere like Yamamoto's Bankai has existence erasure. Wouldn't that insta-kill characters that are weaker?
No, that's just Yama.
no, like for the actual just thing for existence erasure, that's not actually stated. Even in the Raws, it's not. People just argue that it is, but it doesn't say existence erasure, actually. Like doesn't say that, but like its destruction is really good. Like they would just die if they get killed by Yamamoto. Like they would just get murked.
If that
And they wouldn't be able to regenerate from it. They'll just die.
also just completely obliterates him from there. But we do know that at least in his Angel Nugget form, that decapitating and blowing up his head is not sufficient in stopping him from going to his higher evolution. So you have to do more if he gets that form than just merely decapitating him and, you know, blowing up parts of his body. It seems like you have to completely obliterate him if you want to stop him.
Like when his power was reflected on him, he literally just had half of him just blown up. And then he just like lost the majority of his power to the point that Izuru was able to damage him and like take him down. So I'm like, if Yamamoto literally just like he cuts Reiatsu itself or just like rips it or whatever, like Kenpachi did to like Azashiro, for instance, just by being so much stronger and just like manipulating it, Yama might just kill him just outright, just like that. Just like boop.
But I don't think it's completely out of the question of just obliterating his first form. But I'll kind of leave that up to you guys in the comments down below to decide whether or not Lille would be able to get to his final form and just completely outlast Yamamoto, or if you think that just his base form is so weak and doesn't have a lot of the same hacks that a lot of his higher forms do, that Yamamoto would just be able to completely obliterate him. Askin is the final one, and he is the most interesting because Askin almost has like an Uryu problem, right? Where like Uryu can theoretically beat anybody that he can take a hit from. Same thing for Askin. As long as Askin can take a hit from somebody, he can adapt to their spiritual pressure and then become completely immune to it. So literally, the question is not, oh, is Askin gonna poison Yamamoto or something like that? First and foremost, I'm pretty sure the heat is just gonna like evaporate like the gift ball or anything that he throws at him, because even if you don't believe that the poison is going to get burnt by like the heat of the sun, the fact that Yamamoto's spiritual pressure is higher than Askin's means that Askin throws an attack at Yamamoto, who is completely enveloped in his Bankai, it's just going to whiff. What the battle is going to be decided.
His ability isn't poison. His ability is to manipulate the lethal dosage, and that by proxy makes it poisonous. Like it's not actual like poison he shoots out and then like can be negged by just like having high heat. Yama does have higher spiritual pressure and would just be able to last, just like we see Kisuke do. But like it's not because it's poison and then like his Bankai is really hot. It's not the reason why.
Decided on is whether or not base Askin going into the fight is going to be able to take a hit from Bankai Yamamoto, which I don't think is going to be a thing. I mean, seeing as Yushido, who is, Yoruichi's brother, for those of you guys that may have forgotten, he really only had a minor role in the Thousand Year Blood War, but he was there. But seeing as this guy, this actual, like, no-named off-screen character, when he was able to do his initial attacks to Asuka, was able to do some semblance of damage to him, at that point, the strongest Shinigami alive, besides, like, the obvious people like Aizen, Ichibei, and Ichigo, should be able to just absolutely obliterate this guy. But Ichigo actually brings up a very good point here when I mention him, because people might be asking, well, Askin was able to drop True Shikai Ichigo. Does that mean that he would
Let's see how we argue this. Let's see.
also be able to
Let's see. I'm curious. I'm really curious.
drop Yamamoto? And then my response to that would be potentially, right? Because we don't actually know how Ichigo got dropped. We know that, like, Askin likes to get the drop on people, and he doesn't like to directly fight people. So we also know that if you catch people off guard in Bleach, there is a thing as, like, you can catch them off guard and their spiritual pressure is lower, and you can damage someone that you should not be able to damage. So there's a few factors here where it's like, based on how Askin fights and based on what we know about off guard spiritual pressure, it's very likely that Askin caught Ichigo off guard and was able to drop him that way. But even if we give Askin the benefit of the doubt and we say that he was able to just 1v1 True Shikai Ichigo and drop him real quick, that's still within the range of Bankai Yamamoto's abilities. Although that, funny enough, is going to get into a lot of the discussions about full bring Bankai Ichigo versus Dangai Ichigo, because it's basically going to loop back to True Shikai Ichigo and comparing all the different forms to one another. And I've kind of already done a whole arc of, like, videos talking about True Shikai Ichigo and Dangai Ichigo, so I will let you guys just go watch those videos. I still think the information in those videos is still pretty good. I was definitely a lot more into, like, Bleach debating at that point, so those videos are a bit more chunky.
Okay, so as for this one, Ichigo was caught off guard. That it would actually, like, present the actual argument for it, but yeah, he was off guard, and literally it stated that even while dropped and off guard, Askin wasn't able to kill Ichigo. Like, he was incapable of it, but yeah.
If you think that Yamamoto is still
As for, like, that, like, Bankai Yamamoto being able to, like, be in the tier of True Shikai Ichigo, no, he's not. No, he is not. Our boy, True Shikai Ichigo scales above, like, Ichibei, dude. Ichibei literally just, like, by Yuha waving his hand, sends his power up and one-shots Ichibei. Like, and Yuha one-shots Yama and then gets his power added to it, so it's like, so Yuha plus Yamamoto fight Ichibei, get dogged on. Yuha gets more powerful, one-shots Ichibei. Then he fights Ichigo, and he doesn't get one shot. Like, Ichigo doesn't get one shot, so no, that should not be in his capabilities.
basically, your options are, if A, you believe that Yamamoto is stronger than True Shikai Ichigo because of the results of those arguments, because you sided more with the full bring Bankai Ichigo stuff, it's pretty
True Shikai Ichigo scales above Fullbring Bankai, so I'm not sure what arguments he's even talking about.
more definitive in Yamamoto's favor, because then it's literally like Askin would not be able to really do anything to Yamamoto, and Yamamoto would probably just obliterate him in one shot. But if you think Yamamoto is comparable or even weaker than True Shikai Ichigo, then at that point, Askin might just poison and kill him right then and there before Yama gets a chance. But again, that does kind of conflict with Yuha's own statement, where Yuha knows the true potential of all of his guys, and so it just kind of creates a little bit of a scaling paradox, and you'd probably go with more.
Okay, so I don't know why this man is just avoiding Can't Fear Your Own World when Yamamoto is stated to be still beyond the captains. Like, I don't know why he's just avoiding that. Just not talking about it. So, like, it's 14 minutes in, and he has, like, let me just go 2 times speed and see what else he has to say. I'm like, I don't know why he's just, like, not addressing that.
more of like Yuha's direct statement than just some power scaling numpty nonsense. Not to discredit power scaling, I'm just saying that like the actual statements of the character are what you're gonna go with, then just kind of comparing Fullbring Bankai Ichigo and Dangai Ichigo, just kind of like fan power scaling, if that makes sense. I'm like throwing up air quotes here. I'm sure you guys get what I'm trying to say, right? I'm trying to say that like, you know, inverse statements over Discord arguments people have amongst themselves, right? I think that's kind of the general point I'm trying to throw out there. But that being said, that's pretty much the end of the video. I hope you guys enjoyed. I'm trying to do more Bleach content. I'm really like actually trying to put my like nose to the grindstone and get it done. And seeing topics like this where I'm actually like looking at it, I was like, oh, that's actually really interesting. I would really like to do that.
Okay, and then he's not saying anything. All right, but yeah, this is pretty odd. I don't know why he doesn't mention Can't Fear Your Own World. I don't know like what he's talking about for this Ash Wallen argument, because that's not what it is. And yeah, Yamamoto, even in Shikai, would just eviscerate all of these guys because Gerard scales above all of them. Gerard is equal to Byakuya, Bankai Byakuya. And Tokinata equal to Byakuya. So is Shinsui, so is Yoriichi. They all box each other, so all of them get that scaling. And this is a Can't Fear Your Own World Byakuya, which is 6 months after. So he has 6 months to train. So we have these guys all being relative to Byakuya, who scales to Gerard. And in Can't Fear Your Own World, Yamamoto is still, Shikai Yamamoto, he's still at the edge of reason. So, like, this man would actually just eviscerate these people, and they wouldn't be able to regenerate just because of how powerful it is, as we've seen multiple times, or how we've seen when they literally got one shot by Nimaya. Like, they could literally get the Nimaya treatment, just get one shot. We've seen people weaker than Yamamoto do it, the Zero Squad. Outside of Ichibei. Ichibei is the only one in the Zero Squad that scales above Yamamoto. The other 4 scale below, and we see Nimaya drop all of them. So we do know, like, that's a valid way to do it, since Yuha also died that way to Yamamoto 1,000 years ago. So yeah, is an in-character way for Yamamoto to just beat the Royal Guard right there, bro. Narratively, Yamamoto beats Royal Guard just like he beats Yuha. Easy. I'll give this video a 7 or 8 out of 10. I don't know why you didn't mention Can't Fear Your Own World, and you make it a lot more arguable than it actually is. But yeah.